Thank you all for joining us for this CallTalk Caramel video for September 30th, 2022. With me is Keith Fiveson, and the topic is moving from toxic to terrific with mindfulness-based leadership performance with Keith, as I said. And he's the founder of the Work Mindfulness Institute and is also the author of the best-selling book, The Mindfulness Experience, 8 Strategies to Live Life Now. And Keith spent over 30 years in the call center and customer experience industry, so he knows our area very well. He retired from Pricewaterhouse in 2016, where he was a leader in the contact center globalization sector. So among the things that have come out of the pandemic with the hiring and retention issues that contact centers are facing is a closer look at how leadership impacts performance, satisfaction, and really healthy workplaces in our sector. So I wanted to bring in someone who has real experience in this area, focusing on mindfulness-based leadership. And Keith is a published expert, as I mentioned, and I'm really delighted to be welcoming him to our show. How are you doing, Keith?
I'm doing great, Bruce, and it's so good to see you and so good to be a part of the show.
As I mentioned, Keith and I have known each other for many years, and so what I'd like to do is to ask him how to make this subject real for our listeners. Listeners who, as you know, are mainly contact center professionals. What is mindfulness-based leadership performance, and why do you think it's important for them to hear about?
Well, it's extremely important because as you well pointed out, or as we talked about, when we talk about stress and trauma, we've gone through this whole period of time here in the United States. We have over a million people that have died from COVID. A lot of individuals have been impacted, their families have been impacted, communities have been impacted, and stress alters rational thought and cognition. In other words, it hinders helping behaviors, it diminishes learning and memory. It also increases decision-making bias with a lot more judgment, and it reduces the creative capabilities within the organization, within people. So when we have stressed out leaders or toxic leaders, they pass on this toxicity to their people. Well, it's a matter of regulation. We co-regulate with each other. So when you have leaders who are mindful, leaders who are, as we say, calm, cool, and collected, they're really present. What you have is the ability for leaders to go ahead and influence the organization much more so. And when you have organizations that are working together, you have organizations that are really much more tolerant. You have leaders who are passing these skills on to their people. The people themselves, whether or not they're on the phone or they're working in the back office or whatever the case is, they're able to work more cohesively within a window of tolerance, and they're able to really co-regulate with each other so that they're more creative, they remember more, they're more productive, and that there really is this community atmosphere that allows them to really attain the kind of vision that everyone aspires towards.
I'd say those are really important points. And so what would your tips be for the people listening to this to remain cool, calm, and collected, to actually attain that level of leadership presence that you were talking about here?
So we use a series of skills that really involve active listening, positive feedback, corrective feedback, coaching, influencing, and so on. But we do that within this framework, which is a top-down, bottom-up framework. So, for example, breathing practices to co-regulate or to regulate the nervous system. We have this autonomic nervous system, and the sympathetic side of the nervous system automatically reacts. It's the reactive side of our nervous system. We call it, stimulus response. So that's not necessarily a good thing. Right. If you have a customer at the end of the line who's yelling and screaming, or you have learning how to go ahead and breathe, learning how to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest area of the nervous system, allows you to get that recognition so that when you get the stimulus, you have some recognition that you're activated. that what you said activated me, or I activated you, or whatever the case is. And you get the ability to go ahead and make a different choice. So it's recognition and choice. So one of the things we do is around breathing techniques to reboot, to reset, and reframe. And that's very helpful. It's very helpful not only in the contact center, but it's also helpful in our personal relationships with ourselves when we have that self-talk, that self-chatter. Most people can wander. I call it executive ADD, or executive, so that your attention goes somewhere else.
No, I think what you're saying there about talking to ourselves, the conversation going on in our own heads, is so important for centering ourselves, for calming ourselves, cool, calm, and collected, whatever it happens to be, to get that in there, particularly if there are other things going on in our lives, and we're all human beings, as you said, and there oftentimes are other things going on in our lives. So we basically do the intentional leadership part on ourselves to begin with before we walk in, because we have to understand that we have an impact that's important on our coworkers' lives. And so that leadership needs to be intentional, needs to be cultivated by us. So just a last question before we have to close, and that has to do with leadership in the context of different generations in the call center, because this is one that we've been hearing a lot about, and particularly when it comes for people who are a little bit older, who have to lead those people who are Gen Z and who are millennials, and who are wonderful people, but need to be addressed in a particular way and have to be appreciated for some of the values and the thinking that they bring to the center.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it from the standpoint of moving from toxic to terrific, right? And the old models are very hierarchical. It's from the president on down, I'm the manager, and I manage you, rather than very flat, which is really where today's leadership is at. It's a flat organization, and we're all working together towards a common purpose and common values. But the framework is, the mind internally, people want to go to work to go ahead and learn how to live better lives. They want to make money. Yeah, sure. But at the end of the day, they want to be inspired. They want to have some breath in their lives so that they can go ahead and achieve their aspirations. Maybe are we creating opportunities to build relationships and communities? And are we providing them with the aspirations, the purpose, the why, so that they know why they're going into work, not just to get a paycheck, but to actually make a difference in the world? And if we're able to do those things, then we're able to recharge. We're able to really give people the sense of why they're working with us rather than the person down the road. And if you do that, I guarantee you'll get more people signing up, because the word of mouth is going to be greater.
With regard to that, we're in a sector that actually offers tremendous opportunities, because one of the things about being a contact center agent or supervisor or manager is that you are impacting people's lives every day, every interaction. And that's not true with a lot of other positions. And if that is brought across to your people through your leadership, that can be a powerful way to make people more satisfied and to increase retention as well. I was at a center that actually dealt in the medical field, and I was talking to the management team, and they were having problems with regard to morale and things like that. So we spent some time talking this through, and were they really aware, and did they communicate how important their conversations were with the people who called to them? And they really weren't. And at the end of that, they said, thank you so much for making us realize how we can communicate the impact that our people have on the lives of others. I mean,
that's great.
And it's true for anything, really, whether it's
tech
support or any part. You are having somebody with a problem, with a question, call you, and you have an opportunity then and there, in very real terms, to have an impact on them and the rest of their day, and possibly on their lives. I mean, in some cases, you'll be saving their lives. Utility or financial services or consumer organization or whatever it is, really, when you are in a contact center, customer contact center environment, you have an opportunity to really make a difference in people's lives. And that should be something you appreciate and learn how to communicate to your people.
Hmm.
Okay, Keith, we're going to have to end it there, but it's been great. Really appreciate your coming on the program, and best wishes to you.
Thank you, Bruce. Likewise. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.